Yo, what is good, yo? It's your boy Ty back here with another video, and in this video today we are going to be going over the best player that was released in every week of NBA 2K21 MyTEAM. So I think we got a total of 49 weeks that we did have this for, that we got content for. So for that specific week drop, who is the best player in the game? So, for example, week 3, it's not still going to be Steph Curry. Although Steph Curry was still the best player in week 3, he didn't get dropped in week 3. So, who is the best player that did get released in week 3 of MyTEAM? That's what we're going to be talking about today. So, if you're just kind of interested in how the year went, kind of how progression went throughout MyTEAM, this is going to be a good video for you guys to watch. Before we dive any deeper into this today, if you are new to my channel and have not yet, please consider smashing that subscribe button. So, we're on the road to 80,000 subscribers. So week 1, obviously, you got Paul Pierce. Steph Curry obviously was dropped. Who else could have been good? JoJo White was solid. Elgin was okay. But, I mean, by far and away, Steph was our week 1. I mean, he was the best player in week 1. You look at it, 38 on gold, 7 on famous, 2 on silver, hot spots from everywhere. He wasn't really attainable day 1, but he got dropped day 1, and this dude was fantastic for a day 1 card. He had a Steph Curry base on quick. The dude week 1 was just fantastic. So then we hop into week 2. We got the clutch promo with obviously the set reward Jerry West. Obviously got the diamond Jason Kidd in that as well. But the amethyst Kobe was solid as well. When this Kobe got released, he was fantastic. You just look at the total badges. Obviously the 83 speed, or the 83 3-ball, 88 speed. The dude's solid. And then you look at the other guy kind of comparable in Jerry West. For point guards at this stage of MyTEAM, this card was the best. I mean, he was. At this stage of MyTEAM, obviously, he was a game-changing point guard because of the fact that he could shoot the ball decently well, had a release on normal. But I think Jerry West was just a little bit better than Kobe in this specific content drop for me. That's why week 2, I'm going with Jerry West. So week 3, where we're looking at is anything but before the 18th. So obviously we got the Vault Dave Bing. That was nothing crazy. Obviously there's nothing crazy in this drop either. So week 3 is really the idol set. We got Manu Ginobili, who was solid. Okay, if you look at Manu for his time, was definitely solid. Release wise was definitely broken, but defensively he could hold it down, right? He was our first guy at the shooting guard position. The defense was okay. But we also saw Paul George, who in my opinion was better than Manu Ginobili, obviously at the small forward position. He wasn't necessarily the best card in the game, wasn't necessarily the most complete, but the Paul George based on normal timing wasn't bad. We also saw Kristaps Porzingis, who you guys can make the debate was up there as well. For me though, I mean, Kristaps offensive was fine. I think Paul George was the best player that we saw in week 3. I really do believe that. Obviously that idol drop in general was game changing. You got Manu, Paul George, and Kristaps, but I think PG was the best guy that we got in that specific week. So the next week, that's when we obviously saw, so we go the 18th through the 25th. So that's when the next week we're going to talk about the playoff diamonds, where we got Draymond Green. This was one of the Tuesday drops that's in rare. I mean, Chris Webber was good, Draymond was green. And then that's also when we did see the glitch John Stockton. So this one's tough because it's like, what is the most game changing, or what is the best card we got in this? Was it John Stockton, who was absolutely immaculate for a very long time? Or was, at the time, Draymond Green more valuable? For me specifically, I think Draymond Green was more valuable. I really do. As far as shooting, or as far as centers are concerned, I think this card would just change the game and how things are perceived. Obviously, could shoot the ball decently, had a smooth release, was green from 3. So then we go, obviously, from the 26th through the 2nd. So you got these 2 content drops. Kyrie Irving, Dikembe Mutombo, Latrell Sprewell was fine. Obviously, Dikembe and Latrell were fine. And then you move into the next drop with Dominique, Darren Williams, Giannis. So it's really another idols drop that we're looking at, because Dikembe, Latrell, they don't really compare to these guys. So you got Diamond, Darren Williams, Giannis Antetokounmpo, or Dominique Wilkins. And I mean, in this drop, obviously you got a lot here. You got Giannis, who is very solid all the way around, 89 speed. Defensively really changed the game and how people looked at it. But the problem was he couldn't shoot the ball. 69 3-ball, didn't get the job done. Then you got Darren Williams, right? Even if you had John Stockton, a point guard, you got another point guard who was just absolutely insane. And when Darren Williams was first dropped, he was better than John Stockton until we really figured out what Showtime was. And like DBG said in his video, Darren Williams was the best player we saw in week 5. So moving on to week 6, this is really when things started to ramp up here. Obviously, we saw the Dr. J this week. So the shooting guard Dr. J changed things around at the shooting guard position. We'll get to him. And then in the NBA Finals promo, this wasn't really the greatest drop, but we saw Clay and the Diamond Braun, right? Chauncey Billups wasn't terrible for point guards, but we saw Diamond Braun and then Clay. If you look at Braun, speed-wise, 93 speed, could shoot the ball decently, had showtime. Like, as far as complete small forwards, was one of the top. Clay, absolute knockdown in the catch-and-shoot situation. So, saw a complete couple of players. For me, though, I think before we talk about the NBA Finals, we got to talk about the badged up Julius Erving. Yes, he costed a ton to badge up, but when you fully badge Julius Erving, he was the best card that we saw in week 6. So the next week was season 7, and if you click on season 7, this is when we see what was here. So Blake's stats, Blake Griffin, the level 40 reward was not, his stats weren't really out yet. I think they got changed or something got updated. So he's not going to be in this specific week. But if you look at this week, you got Jaylen Brown, who is a limited award, who is probably the best thing that we are going to see here. And it's not even close. After that, I mean, who are you going to? Patrick Ewing, he wasn't that bad. But JB, obviously in week 7, he kind of provided the alternative to a Julius Erving. If you didn't get Julius Erving, obviously Jaylen Brown wasn't available right away, but he provided a sense of hope for what was to come. Then obviously we saw the offline role, Ruby Hibbert and Sharif Abdur-Rahim, but neither of those guys were that great. Then we saw the next is now Dunker set with, I think this is Josh Smith and John Wall. Both those guys were incredible. We also saw the glitch Tim Duncan. So really for me, it's either Tim Duncan and then you got to take into consideration Josh Smith and John Wall. Josh Smith obviously was incredible defensively. I'm going to show you guys his stats real quick. 87 speed, 87 lateral quickness, Hall of Fame showtime for a time. An era which a lot of players did not have those types of things. But we got our glitch Tim Duncan. This card, I mean, really gave us another option if you didn't have Draymond Green. A 93 ball was absolutely knocked down. The range extender could get upgraded. Couldn't handle the ball at all. But Chicken Man Tim was incredible. Just a pick and pop big. Defensively wasn't that bad with the 75 lateral quickness. He held it down. So in week 8, I'm going with the Diamond Tim Duncan. In my opinion, he was the best player we saw in that specific week. The next week, we also saw the international set, Detlef Schrempf, Pedro Stojakovic, nothing really there. And then we also saw Buck Williams, who was fine, Triple Online, nothing crazy there. But we also saw the possessed Halloween stuff, okay? And here's what we saw. We saw Dave Cowens. I'm going to click on and show you guys defensively was absolutely fantastic. Good speed, lateral quickness. Obviously, 3-ball wasn't great, plus you had to badge him up to make him good, but we're talking about the best players released. So obviously badged up him. Trace McGrady was fine for his time as well with a decent 3-ball. Defensively was decent as well. For me, though, this Dave Cowens changed things around. The center position, again, is hard to come by. We saw Tim Duncan back-to-back weeks. We're going to go with another center in Dave Cowens. So moving on to week 10. Next is now team up set. Nothing really was dropped in that set. Obviously, we got the Marcus Camby. And then we saw our Pink Diamond Grant Hill. The Pink Diamond Grant Hill does it for me. This card changed the game forever for me. 95 speed, 94 lateral quickness. Those two things at this time in the game were so rare to come by. You combine that with the 96 driving deck, 91 steal ball. Great playmaking stats. Defensively was incredible. Hall of Fame showtime. The dude changed the game for me. So moving on to week 11, we got these unlimited awards, and then we're moving on. Got the Blake update with the Next Is Now set. The Next Is Now set, Sam Jones was fine, but the Blake Griffin. I mean, talk about centers that changed the game forever. This was Blake Griffin. You look at it, 72 lateral quickness doesn't seem like incredible, but if you gave Blake Griffin the right things, the dude was by far and away the best center in the game, and it really was not close. Now, with that, okay, with the Blake update, we also saw the glitch Zion that week. It's kind of tough to not put Zion as the best player we saw in week number 11, but it can't be. Blake was better than the Zion Williamson, so for me, Blake Griffin did it for me. Obviously, the next week, we saw the NBA draft set with the Cam Reddish. The only guy really to note there. AD was fine as well, a card that I didn't talk about with Glenn Robinson. This drop, the NBA draft drop was actually kind of wild. Then we got the Next Is Now, and obviously JR came available that day. JR, a card I didn't really hype up that much because I still preferred Pink Diamond Grant Hill, but as far as shooting wise, JR gave us something with the Hall of Fame range and flexible that we had yet to see. So moving on to week number 13, that is when the season 3 of my team started. So obviously in season 3, we saw Aaron Gordon as our limited reward, Iggy as our unlimited, Idos KD was fine, MJ. This is a hyped up drop with some big names, but nothing was really even comparable to Dwayne Wade. 15 Hall of Famers, 26 on gold. Now, the big thing for Dwayne Wade was his base. Even if it was on normal timing, it was still a very good release for this time. Dwayne Wade was absolutely fantastic for a very long time. I don't regret grinding for him one bit. So the week following, obviously the season opening, that is when we saw our season of giving Jason Richardson, nothing really there. But then we also saw our Flash 4 set, the glitch Rudy Gobert. But then we saw our Pink Diamond Giannis. Now, was the Pink Diamond Giannis that much better than the Diamond Giannis? Giannis that we saw earlier. Not that much better, but he brought a little something different, right? A little bit different for Giannis. Obviously, a few more badges, a little bit better of a 3-ball, which any little bit for Giannis was important. And I think he was the best player we saw in week 14, especially for me being a defensive head. Giannis was the man with the plan for week number 14. Week number 15, that's when we saw our double take set. Obviously, we got Walter Davis. We got our Dirk Nowitzki. Walter Davis was okay. We also saw Kiki that week, but double take, that's really where we're looking at. You got George Gervin to Dwight Howard, but this Derrick Rose was incredible. I mean, he was very solid. Kind of brought a rim running point guard meta to my team. Obviously, we had John Stockton, but Derrick Rose just brought another dimension to that, right? People ran John Stockton, but now people were starting to run Derrick Rose just because he had those extra Hall of Famers and just was a little bit taller. Week 16 of my team, we saw the season of giving Jason Williams. We also saw the obviously spotlight Kobe season of giving. Season of giving was just a mess. We're not even going to talk about all that. Larry Nance, we saw the pink diamond Joel Embiid, who was fine. But then we also saw our first retro set, in which we got Paul George and Andre Kirilenko. Now, you guys can go back and forth debating who's better between Paul George and Andre Kirilenko. For me personally, now this is going to be me, my personal opinion, Andre Kirilenko did more for me than Paul George did. Jump shot 98 on normal timing was fine for this era. And for me, that's who I'm taking. I think Andre Kirilenko for week number 16 just outdid Paul George a little bit for me. Heading into the next week, obviously we saw this on December 24th, and instead of Christmas, obviously we saw our season of giving Jason Tatum new unlimited rewards, but then we saw our big Pantheon set. Now this drop was absolutely massive with big name Kobe Bryant and Shaq. Now Kobe really was the winner of this set. I mean, you can say whatever you want about Kobe being overhyped, Kobe being this or that. This Kobe Bryant was good for the time and era he was in. He was very good. Offensively, defensively, the card was immaculate. Kobe Bryant based on normal timing. I would say I wasn't the biggest fan of his release, but the dude could do no wrong. As far as complete badge stat-wise, Kobe Bryant was the man with the plan. Week number 18, that's when we saw the season of giving Zach LaVine that everybody hyped up. Bob Pettit just absolutely terrible. We saw our Baron Davis, but don't get me started about Baron Davis. We also saw our idols lock in Chris Webber, and it's not even close. This Chris Webber was fantastic for his time. 94 3-ball, 95 driving. Lateral quickness got updated as well. This dude was incredible. For his time, people did not realize how good this card was. Kemba base on quick. There's one idols lock in that was worth it. It was this Chris Webber. I didn't lock him in. I don't think ultimately he was worth it. So within the next week, that's when we saw the start of season 4 of my team. This was obviously week 19 in general. And let's just see who the best card we got in this drop was. Because whoever we got at the start of my team is probably going to be the best player overall. Now, obviously, Russ, as far as limited, was fine. Anton Jameson was incredible for domination. Kevin McHale was incredible. Gary Payton was incredible. You just got a lot of incredible cards. Boogie was solid. Bobby Jones was solid. Really, it comes down to 3 guys for me in specific. Gary Payton gave you another Dwayne Wade type point guard, but he was just incredible on defense with the 99 lateral quickness. Got Kevin McHale, who was incredible at the center position as well, to kind of give you a different look at a center. And then you got Anton Jameson. Now, for me, I'm going to go with Anton Jameson. I wasn't really the biggest fan of Anton Jameson when he came out, but at the small forward position, you look at a guy with the X and base on quick for a time where nobody really had that. So for me, Anton Jameson in week number 19 does it for me. Headed into week number 20, that's when we saw Jason Kidd, our pink diamond Allen Houston, that I was not a fan of. Also saw our start of the moments cards. Now, Luka before his base got updated, but once his jump shot got updated, was solid. But that's when we saw our Galaxy Opal Anthony Davis. Now, Granger was good, but in week number 20, it wasn't even close. The Opal AD was just absolutely fantastic for at least a month or two. You look at a guy like Kevin McHale, he was outdated a week later. I mean, this Anthony Davis was doing more for you than this Kevin McHale already could. Week number 21, we saw our pink diamond Ben Gordon, who was fantastic. Junior Bridgman was very, very good as well. Vault update for Terry Dishinger, and we also saw the Inferno set. So there was a lot going on this week, okay? You got Havlicek, Braun, T-Mac, okay, in general. And then you also got our weekly update, Terry Dishinger. For me, look, I'm going to be non-biased in this video. It's Havlicek. It's Hondo. This dude gave me so many nightmares, gave me so many problems. In week number 21, I never locked this card in. But to say he wasn't the best card we got in week number 21, I'd be lying to you guys. Heading into week number 22, that is when we saw this Alonzo Mourning, Bradley Beal, Jameer Nelson set that was discussing. We also saw Jack Marin. And then that Friday is when we saw the glitched Melo, Kyrie, obviously Hakeem Olajuwon. So this was just kind of a gross overall. It was just kind of a gross overall week. For me personally, it was tough between Jack Marin, it was literally Chicken Man Jack. This card did things for me I'll never say. And then you got Hakeem Olajuwon. Now for me specifically, I'm going to go with Hakeem Olajuwon. Defensively was an incredible big man. And again, we saw an AD, but Hakeem defensively was just different. People left him open from 3 just because he couldn't really green consistently. But defensively, I'd be lying to say he wasn't the best big in the game. Week number 23, that is when we saw the Kawhi Leonard update. Now this was massive because they gave him Showtime. They gave him, I think, Hall of Fame range. They did give him Hall of Fame steady. So a lot of people were mad about that on current gen, but because of how chicken Kawhi's release was, it just didn't matter. This dude greened everything anyway, so the fact that he got added steady didn't matter, but defensively just changed the game completely. So we saw Kawhi, and that was kind of the big deal this week, right? We saw Kawhi in that drop. We also saw the retro set, but none of these retro cards compared to what Kawhi Leonard could do. Lonzo was our best point guard at that time. Giannis was incredible, but Kawhi really stole the show for week number 23 and was the winner, the best player in week number 23. Week number 24 is when we saw the Pink Diamond John Stockton. Now when he got released, I was excited. Nothing really came of him. We also saw Jack Sigma, Momus Levine, who was okay, Kobe White, Chris Boucher. All those cards were fine. And then we saw our second idols drop here. We saw Yao Ming, Jeremy Lin, Kenyon Martin. This week was kind of a bad week in general. I think this was the second week before 250. We really didn't get anybody to add for that. But Jeremy Lin was a solid point guard. I think some people ran him in 250. The dude was solid all around. 24 Hall of Famers, 35 on gold. There's nothing really wrong with the card. He just, in my opinion, wasn't that next level good. That following week, okay, we also saw the Opal Clay. We know that. We saw the Throwback Moments Pacific. But that's when the next season started. That is when season 5 of my team started. Obviously, with the David Robinson dropping that day, it's going to be tough to beat. Cedric Maxwell was fine. Obviously, we saw the KD, the Luka in that day. So there's a lot going on in here. But all in all, as good as KD was, as good as Luka was, as good as this drop was in general, the David Robinson was the best card we got that day. He was the best card we got that day. Like, if I could have got David Robinson for 250 over anybody else, I would have. And that's just considering you got Moses Malone here too, who was just absolutely incredible. This content drop changed the game forever. Week number 26, that is when we saw the Jamal Murray moments, okay? And that's when we saw our France promo as well as the glitch Dirk, Harden, Jokic cards. But this season was not bad for me. And then we got this glitch Dirk, who I thought was very solid. 29 Hall of Famers, 29 on gold. He could just do it all. There was nothing wrong with this Dirk. Now again, this release splits the community. A lot of people like Jump Shot 94, a lot of people don't. But I personally didn't mind it. Dirk, for his time, was one of the best bigs in the game. Now the next week is when we saw our big spotlight sim drop. Obviously we got Wes Unseld, John Wall, Sidney Weeks, Brandon Roy. We also did see our Pantheon All-Star drop with MJ, Zion, you got Vince Carter, you got Paul George, Magic Johnson. Like, you just saw all these cards. Now objectively, guys, there was a lot going on in this drop. Paul George was just an absolutely incredible addition. You got the Paul George base on quick. The dude can do no wrong all around. Now we also did see the Zion, the MJs of the world. The Zion had 41 Hall of Famers for his time, which is absolutely fantastic. And then obviously the Michael Jordan with 39 Hall of Famers, his release on quick. For me, the player I like the most out of this drop is Paul George. I think for his time, obviously was the most overlooked card with the Zion and MJ. And I think he was the best card that we did indeed see in week 27. Week 28, that is when the All-Star moments Giannis came out. We also saw all these other All-Star moments that weren't really too great, but that's when we saw that. We also did indeed see the Spain promo. Spencer Haywood, Kermit Washington were also added, as well as the Retro 2K Volume 3. Now, this was one of the most disappointing drops. There's nothing here to even look at. Now, here's the thing. You look at this All-Star Giannis. A lot of people didn't hype him up. I'll hype him up. An 83 ball, 94 speed, 93 lateral quickness. I'll hype up this card any day of the week. The card was fantastic. I get it, no range extender yet for Giannis, but this dude was a decent step above the Pink Diamond Giannis. I know a lot of people are going to say they were the same card. No, this Giannis was something for his time that we had not seen yet. Heading into week 29, that's when we saw the Galaxy Opal Clyde Drexler. We also saw our Germany promo that was just terrible with Deadlift Shrimp. And then the big drop, obviously, was the Idol Series 2. We saw the Moments Dame. That really wasn't nothing. But we saw the KG drop. Now, this drop was just not really it. Now, all in all, we saw a different type of center with Kevin Garnett that we had not seen yet. A 95 speed, 95 lateral quickness. And for his time, he was fine. The big thing for KG is I hate set shot 14. So, I mean, I hate it. Larry Bird was fine, too, at this time. For me, though, I'd be lying to say this was not the best card we saw in week 29. I'd be lying. I don't like Kevin Garnett that much, but defensively, as far as a big man is concerned, the dude did big stuff. Following that, we saw a big drop on the 26th of March, which did start Season 6 of my team. Normally, level 40 rewards were it. JR was not it for me. We saw the radioactive T-Mac, radioactive Kareem, and then obviously a bunch of rewards. And then we saw the Giannis with 35 Hall of Fame badges that had the gold range extender. We also saw the radioactive Kareem Abdul-Jabbar that was just absolutely ridiculous that also could get range extender. So it really came down to Kareem, to Giannis. For me, it's Giannis. Like, the fact that we finally got a Giannis with range extender with his release on quick, you can still make the debate that this Giannis is the best current gen Giannis we have in the game. That's how truly good this Giannis card is. Following that big drop, okay, we also saw the Ty Lue miss in the mystery drop. There really wasn't much with Dominique Wilkins right there. Opal Devin Booker really wasn't much. And then we saw the Flash 8 set. Now, obviously, we got Wilt DeMar DeRozan in this set. For me personally, okay, my personal opinion, Wilt was fine. He was fine, 95 speed, 90 lateral quickness, but he didn't really give you anything different than a guy like Kareem. Obviously, he did in the fact that he had Hall of Fame range, but we also saw DeRozan this week. Now, DeRozan really didn't give you anything different than Tracy McGrady either, other than the fact that he did not have Hall of Fame steady. So it's really close between DeRozan to Wilt. I'm going to go with Wilt just with the slight edge because he did give you the Hall of Fame range. And on next gen, Wilt was one of the best centers in the game, if not the best center for that current era. The week after Wilt Chamberlain, on that following Tuesday, I think we saw the mystery set with Darius Miles, Trae Young, just absolutely terrible. Then we saw the Galaxy Ope with Danny Ferry. We all know what Ferry was. And then that Friday, we saw an incredible drop with Grant Hill, KD. Just an incredible week in general. Like this week, obviously the Kobe, I'm not a big fan of. But other than that, we saw a big week. Danny Ferry takes the cake for me in week number 32 as far as being the best player we saw this week. Look at this. I mean, like I said, I think I did my rankings today and he was at least 41 on them. Like a top 40 player that was released on April 7th. Just absolutely wild. The following week, we did see a new Moments, Jason Tatum, Zach LaVine, Gary Trent Jr., Enes Kanter. It's good to see these Moments cards. Like, I wish 2K would do more of that. We got a lot of content this season. TTO, Ron Harper. And then, obviously, that Friday, we saw the Idols, Melo, Bosh, Darren Williams, Billy Owens. This content drop, I mean, there was a lot of content drops within it. Chris Bosh is the headliner. 6'11", 7'3" wingspan. As obviously the Jump Shot 29 release. He was just a different version. I remember I used to ask people, do you like Chris Bosh or KG more? Just because I like Bosh more offensively, but KG defensively just did a little bit more. But Bosh this week is probably a little bit something different. The week after Melo, we saw a big shift in content. We obviously saw the Sabonis, Boris Diaw, Pink Diamond. That was solid. But then that Friday is when we saw Warp Reality. You're talking about a Shaq. That's not even in the top 2 cards that we got that week. You know, we got Ben, and then we got Bol Bol. Now, for me, Bol Bol is absolutely incredible. He changed the game and is still usable to this day. But this Get Dark Matter Ben Simmons is still one of my top 10 cards in the game. So for me to go against Ben Simmons, I'd be lying to you guys. In week 34, we saw a top 10, still to this day, card in the game, which is just absolutely wild to think about. And after that week, okay, we saw a pretty down week, okay? Week 35 of my team was a really down week. We obviously saw this mystery set, which was just terrible. The Idol Series 2, Russell Westbrook, Ralph Sampson, Rui Hachimura. It's just terrible all the way around. Like, I don't really like any of these guys. Blake Griffin was solid for his time. I never really used the card that much, but for a time he was solid at the power forward center position. Probably should have used him more than I did at power forward. Now, following that week, okay, following that Idols drop, that is when we did see the new season here of Season 7 Full Throttle. It's going to be a pretty short season. Obviously, Vince Carter was the level XP reward, which I was not a fan of. A Disney fan favorites, Braun, fan favorite Jonathan Isaac, Rocco as well, but this card, oh my goodness. This card was fantastic. 7 feet tall, 7'3" wingspan, 47 Hall of Famers. Had the jump shot, 47. He could do no wrong. You can't sit here and tell me that this card could do wrong because he was absolutely right in everything he did. Thought Maker for week 36 of NBA 2K21 MyTEAM was the highlight of this drop. Then next week, we obviously did see the lockdown set with Gary Payton, which was, or not the lockdown set, the set update, which obviously, was the lockdown. We saw the finals, Gary Payton, I should say. Obviously saw the Evo moments, Russell Westbrook. The Dunkers Rewind was fine as well. But then we also saw the Enshrine and Invincible set here. Now, the Enshrine set was kind of a letdown for me. Obviously, I wasn't a big fan of anybody here. this card right here was the best card we saw this week. Kobe Bryant. I'm not the biggest fan of Kobe, I'll tell you guys that. But for May 14th, that's pretty early. 6'6", 6'11 wingspan. Our first Invincible drop. That following week, okay? That following week, we saw the Future Rewind Dark Matter Edwards. We saw Rod Strickland. Then we saw the big triple threat spotlights, okay? We saw Bill Russell, obviously, who highlighted this week. We saw the Allen Iverson, who was terrible, James Worthy, Jimmy Butlers of the world. And then the May 21st, you get Invincible Harden as well, Flash, Paul George, KP. Like, this was just an incredible drop all the way around. But I'd be lying to say that in this week specifically, Bill Russell was not the highlight of the set. For a free card to have the base, Ray Allen base, and just an end game card is really what Bill Russell is. Is he the best power forward still to this day? I don't think so. But if you want to run him in your end game squad, you absolutely can. The week that followed, week 38, week 39, that's when we saw our Dark Matter Dikembe, and this drop that was absolutely incredible. We also did see this drop right here, the out of position 2 set. That was fantastic. That was our point guard Bron, point guard Giannis drop as well. So saw our Christian Wood for free. There's a lot going on here. I love Dikembe Mutombo, but the out of position point guard Giannis card was the highlight of week 39. And for me, obviously the Dikembe was more exciting because I wasn't expecting that on a Monday or Tuesday, but the Giannis was the best card that we saw in week 39. Heading into week 40, obviously it's just the season 8 update is really what we're looking at. So Jason Tatum, Luka Doncic, obviously we got a lot here. The Invincible Tracy McGrady, Invincible K Disney. You got a lot here to kind of separate, right? Is Luka Doncic better than Tracy McGrady, KD? And I think it's close. I really do think it's close. Now I'm going to say the highlight of this was the Luka Doncic, okay? The best player we saw in this specific drop was Luka Doncic. 6'7", 6'8 wingspan, hotspots from everywhere. And he's a free card. Just think about it. We had the pink-eyed Luka, and then you get the Invincible free Luka, who was just absolutely immaculate as well. So following that drop, okay, we're grinding it down here to our last couple of drops. We saw Reggie Jackson this season rewind set. That was solid. Okay, you got Jeremy Grant, Wendell Carter Jr. there. That's fine. And then we saw our Idols, Kawhi Leonard. Now, the Idols started dropping on Wednesday, so you have Kawhi Leonard, Cat, Anton Jameson. Okay, and that's who highlights that. And then you can see the out of position 3 set as well with AK-47. So it really came down. You got AK-47 and Kawhi on the same week, which was just incredible. AK-47 still a top 10 card to this date in week 41. I'd be lying to say he wasn't the player of the week this week, or the best player that did get released in week 41. Week 42, this is when things start ramping up. Like I said, we get a ton of content. Season rewind, you see OG Anunoby, who was fine. Obviously, you see the Idols, Joel Embiid, who was just absolutely fantastic. And to follow things up that Friday, you're looking at an Invincible Bron, LaMelo, Blake. Like, you're just looking at incredible, incredible players. For this drop, I think the Invincible Bron's what changed things. This was the first LeBron James that we saw with the Dante Exum base. So not only was he the best player that we saw this week, he was the start of the change for the LeBron James era, where we finally got some usable LeBron Jameses. I know I told you guys that we started seeing some good content, but then the Vaults, Jordan Clarkson, and Gobert kicked in the season rewind set, which wasn't much that week. Wiggins was okay, I guess. Idols Dirk, Invincible Dirk was fine, and then that following Friday, we saw the splash set, or the splash zone promo with Bobo, Giannis. We even got the Invincible Kareem. So we got my number 3 overall player, my number 4 overall player, and then we also see Shaq and Giannis. Just an incredible drop. Obviously, Bobo was the highlight of this drop, week number 43. He's just incredible. The 3rd best player in all of my team in week number 43. That following week, we see RJ Barrett. Okay, what else did we see that week? We saw RJ Barrett. We see the Gauntlet Spotlight Sims. Taco Fall was my number 1 overall card in the game on that day. So it's just incredible, incredible, incredible content. And then that following Friday, we see the USA card. So incredible content all the way through this entire season so far. Taco Fall, though, he really takes the cake for this week number 44. It's not even close. If you could get the Taco Fall, I know it was a tough grind to get Taco, but if you could find a way to get through the Gauntlet Spotlight Sims to get the reward Taco Fall, oh boy, let me tell you, you got rewarded. The following week, okay, after Team USA, we saw another Season 9 rewind set. Boogie Cousins is fine. We also did see the Idols. Penny Hardaway was fine with Jokic, Jonathan Isaac, just fine content all the way through. Then we see out of position 4, okay? The 2nd best player in my team rankings is Yao Ming. So to go along with that, we saw Paul George, T-Mac, Hidu, Rudy, all solid players. but you're looking at Yao Ming here. I mean, the dude's absolutely fantastic. My second best overall player. So if you're looking at week number 45, it's gotta be Yao Ming. Kind of the last of the biggest content drops was in week number 45. Because after that, we saw our new season, season 9, out of this world, and obviously in this season, it was fine. There wasn't really any of this bad content, but as far as rewards, there weren't any incredible rewards outside of Tony Kukoc. He was by far the best reward there. We saw the 2 in squad, or the Space Jam Braun, Space Jam AD, Invincible Clay, Invincible AD, the GOAT Braun though. And week number 46 takes the cake. Our Braun that can play point guard with the XM base. Changed the game a little bit. Obviously, not my favorite point guard in the game right now, but it just changed the game a little bit. Changed the way people thought of LeBron James, always playing off the ball. Now you had a Braun that could play point guard. Heading into our last 3 weeks here, I have the Hyperdrive sets here. Chris Bosh, Jimmy Butler, both fine cards. And then that Friday, we saw the fan favorites 2 set, GOAT, Kobe, GOAT Magic. You saw Invincible Ben Simmons and Invincible Kawhi Leonard, as well as Invincible Kristaps. You're looking at 3 cards that I have in my top 10. Ben Simmons, my favorite point guard still in the game. Week 47 was a good week for my team on that Friday content drop with fan favorites. This was really the last content drop that we got. Now I was like, okay, this is it. You know, once we get Invincible Ben Simmons, you just know. It's just kind of it for content. Following that up, we did see another Hyperdrive 2 set where we got Hondo, Manu, got some decent cards. That followed up with the next set right there, and which obviously we got the next players. Cade Cunningham, a top 10 player. We saw LaMelo Ball, but we saw Mobley as well as GOAT Reem. My 4th best player in NBA 2K21 MyTEAM right now. The Invincible, obviously, GOAT Kareem go hand in hand. The big thing for Kareem, current gen wise, didn't really get updated much. Next gen got the Shifty Dribble Style Pro 2 Size Escape Pro 3 movement in the back. There's just no flaws with this Kareem card. He could do it all. And after that content drop, we saw one last really week. We saw Embiid, Larry Bird, basically the same as the Invincible. And then we saw obviously J.R. Smith, and then this is what we got to round it off. Obviously, this is not the best content that we saw in week 49. For me, week 49, Joel Embiid is it. 7 feet tall, 7'5" wingspan. The dude could do no wrong. Still barely a top, 15, 20 player in the game. And that just goes to show how good of content we got all year long. All right, y'all, we went through every week of my team. Let me know what your favorite week was. What was your favorite content drop? What was the best content drop for its specific time? Let me know all of that down below in the comments. Who was the best player that got released too early? Was it the first Ben Simmons we got? Was it the season reward Steph Curry? Was that the thing that just started the downtrend to this game? Drop a like on the video, subscribe if you are new, and as always, man, I love you guys, and have a blessed day.